Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States and Mrs. Bush.
20 years ago this year, George Bush, the first President Bush, gave a major address in South Carolina.
Early this year, in the State of the Union, I talked about America's role as a shining example, about the importance of America not as a nation, but as an idea.
Where he talked about the end of communism and the fall of the Berlin Wall, and said it would be wonderful if we could have a Marshall Plan for Central Europe and the former Soviet Union, but we can't afford it. But I want to call upon the American people to support reform and change.
We will work to strengthen the foundations of free society in Eastern Europe. And I'm pleased to announce today the creation of a Citizens Democracy Corps.
Many, many Americans were calling into the White House and wanted to see what they could do to help in Eastern Europe and later on in the former Soviet Union. And the White House actually didn't know what to do with all of these skills and talents that were coming in. They knew they had a resource, they didn't know how to utilize the resource. And so they reached out and asked for a nonprofit organization to be formed. And that was, at the time, Citizens Democracy Corps.
We know the real strength of our democracy is its citizens, the collective strength of individual Americans.
CDS is an international NGO that focuses on market-driven solutions to help individuals, communities, countries, small businesses, other indigenous NGOs sort of meet their developmental needs. The unique thing is that they do this work primarily through the utilization of people.
I think the organization has real agility and sort of an entrepreneurial spirit, and for an organization that's been around and has done lots of different things over its history, it's able to adjust quickly and is very focused in on the clients it serves and the places in which it works.
The organization wants to find themselves as a volunteer sending organization that worked in economic growth and development. Now it's an economic growth and development organization that utilizes volunteers when and where appropriate, and that's a really important distinction and change.
We are a nonprofit organization that's dedicated to harnessing the possibilities in business to improve people's lives. So harnessing business for a social agenda that involves a whole host of activities around growing small and medium enterprises, creating jobs, creating family and national wealth. But it's also about harnessing the resources that larger corporations have that can be used in emerging economies.
Well, CDS has been incredibly valuable to us. They've worked with us collaboratively to develop some of the most challenging and significant assignments on the ground, and they have helped us to understand how to hit the ground running, how to solve a problem in a very succinct and specific kind of way, and build long-term relationships for us with non-governmental organizations and governments around the world.
Specifically, the opportunity that I had was working with nascent entrepreneurs in Angola, both in Luanda, the capital city, and Cabinda. So everyone had a story of what most Americans would consider horrific, life-displacing activities. They were engaged, energetic, and clever, and really desirous of creating a business and making life better for themselves and their families.
Economic growth is the fundamental change that really is going to help transform developing countries and emerging economies. And CDS's focus on that area from the days of being in the former Soviet Union to now being in Africa, Latin America, and Southeast Asia is critical.
I'm excited working with CDS because I work with a group that are committed, responsive to what they do, and have a vision that I believe in, that is to transform lives in countries where this service is appreciated. And so for me as a Ghanaian and working for CDS, I'm happy to be part of a process that can impact lives in a positive way.
We help create businesses, strengthen businesses, create lots of jobs. People pay taxes. They're very empowered by their business, by their work, by their place in society. And that empowerment often gets them involved in their communities and in government. So we don't claim to save the world, but we contribute to people's economic well-being, and their economic well-being can often lead to political stability and stronger community ties.
It's the best job in the world. I've worked in several other places, but for me, CDS is a place to be. And the reason is because I see an interest, genuine interest in empowering and developing the small players to come up to speed, you know, in everything that they do. That is empowerment for me, and that's what makes a difference, because in the past, nobody cared about the small players. Nobody cared about the small businesses. But here we're saying at CDS that they matter.
Seeing business-minded people trying to solve the poverty problem through a business-like approach was definitely a very interesting mix, and I think that's where I think CDC and MBAC come into the picture, where they can really help use the MBA skills and applying them to solve problems faced by people in the developing country. I don't think many organizations have the ability to do that, and that's a unique approach which I think is commendable.
I believe that people around the world should have at least the opportunity to make their lives better, that their children should be able to have education, that they should be able to have clean water, they should be able to feel hope in the future, that they know that their kids are going to live a better life than they did. And if I can be some small part of it, and I have no delusion that I'm anything more than one small part of it, it's really important to me.